Prepare yourselves for the arrival.
Welcome everyone to the first ever proper episode of the Rose Experience podcast. Rose Experience is a tentative title. I don't know whether I'm going to keep this. It sounds a little bit boring, but it is the name of my channel that I'm trying to push forward. So this will be the first numbered episode. I'm very, very lucky to be joined today by the purveyor, creator, and owner of Rerez TV, Shane Louise. Shane, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, so I'm the creator of Rerez, which is a YouTube channel all about video games.
And it's awesome.
Thanks.
It's great. You've been doing it for how long now?
Since 2012 now, so just a couple of years, yeah.
And this is what you do?
Yeah, this is what I do. This is, this is pretty much it now, I guess.
Yeah.
The way it goes.
And I'm pretty jacked. We talked a couple times, and I've wanted to get on board with this a few times. So yeah, I'm really, really happy that you could join me today. Today, we are going to talk about 2015, what we liked, what we didn't like, sort of what we think about the year in total in games, and maybe about how each other in 2015. And then looking forward to 2016, some of the things we're pumped about, and where gaming's going. I suppose I'm probably picking the most difficult day. This is the last day of the break. It is, what is today? The 3rd of January.
Yeah.
Back to work. Well, at least for me anyway, and everybody. So it's just shaking off the rust, and I'm also getting over a little bit of bronchitis. So if I'm coughing and I look like I'm dying, don't be concerned at all. I'm okay. So I suppose we could jump right into it. Shane, what did you think about the year 2015 in gaming in general? The ebb and flow.
I think 2015 was an interesting year for gaming because there was a lot of games that were coming out that I was really excited about. And I ended up playing a lot of those games and losing some of the excitement as I got to play them. But then other games I wasn't expecting to be excited about totally took me by surprise, and they became some of my favorite games I've ever played. Mm-hmm. So 2015 was the year I wasn't expecting. I'd say that's what it was. Okay.
And that can be good and bad, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm really happy with the games I played. Like a lot of the ones I played, even the ones I didn't like so much, I understood what they were about, mm-hmm. and I kind of got that from them. But some games just took me completely out of nowhere, just in a completely different direction, and they gave me a different experience than... So they kind of gave me an experience I wanted, but I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah, I find that a lot with games. I mean, I've heard the term palate cleanser a lot lately, just from people that play games, and it's like, I never really understood what that means. I play games I want to play, and I'm just going to go one to one. But as I get a little bit older and maybe mature in my gaming personality and tastes, and time is so much more valuable now, I understand what a palate cleanser is. I mean, you play The Witcher 3, and then you're like, okay, I don't really want to get into a 100-hour RPG again. Maybe I want to play Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. Something beautiful, a little bit more simplistic, and just a different tone. Yeah. And what was we'll talk about games more in detail as we go, but you were mentioning a game just before we started here that really caught your eye and that you love extremely this year.
Read Only Memories.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the games that I knew I was going to like it on some level because it's heavily inspired by Snatcher and more older MSX-based games than NES and Super Nintendo, detective story type things, point-and-click action adventures. And I was really excited to try it out, but I didn't know how excited I would be because when I started to play the game, I felt like there's a lot of games out there that are designed that are inspired by like Mega Man or or Halo
Yes,
or Half-Life.
platformers, they want to recapture that. Yeah.
Something, and they find something and they really stick to it and they make the same game. There was a game that recently came out, Axiom Verge, I think is what it's called.
The Metroid, yeah.
Yeah, and it really just feels like a Metroid game one-to-one. It doesn't feel like they really changed much. Not that that's bad. They made a really solid experience that is pretty much...
I agree. I played it, I bought it, and I played it briefly, but I think I was expecting a little bit too much out of it. And that, again, doesn't mean it's a bad game at all.
It doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's a game that is perfectly serviceable, is a good game in its own right. But I felt like we already had this with Metroid. What was the new thing this was telling me? It's cool to see games attempt to be another game or try and emulate some of the features from the game that the creators were obviously inspired by. When I played Read Only Memories, I was expecting kind of like a Snatcher clone, but I got something more. I got something that kind of dived into the gameplay mechanics in kind of a really unique way. One of the things I've always hated about Snatcher, and Snatcher is one of my favorite games of all time.
Mine, I love it.
But like one of the things I've always hated about it is you have to pixel hunt, go around clicking on things until you know. Well, usually in that game it's just words that you click on and stuff like that. But nothing highlights on the screen. With Read Only Memories, when you like put your mouse over something, kind of a bounding box goes around that object and it tells you this is clickable.
Yeah.
This is an asset you
Click
can
me. Yeah.
Right? That I love. They had to draw that in. That's not like some 3D model where they create an overlay effect on a 3D model. This is pixelated artwork that they had to draw all that stuff in individually. And when you do that, it defines the world a little bit more. And the tiny things that they did in the game where they were world building, which in Snatcher, some of the best stuff in Snatcher is Neo Kobe's world building with like Neo Kobe pizza and knowing all those little tiny bits, they bring this really rich tapestry and make this amazing story. And Read Only Memories has that same feeling. It's building this world and establishing ideas, and the narrative becomes that much more lush because you're creating this entire atmosphere that the player can get lost in. And I was not expecting that kind of performance. I was basically expecting a game that was just going to be, oh, here's a game that has a story, click, 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 click. Yeah. But it's definitely...
So the nostalgia gets you in the door, but then it adds all those updates that maybe when you were playing it, you wanted, but you didn't know.
Yeah, so
let's save a little bit more for that, because I mean, I'm like that too. You just get going on a game that you love, and it's obviously that you love it. I mean, for me, the year was, as I said right before we started, it's sort of the dreams unrequited. I feel like there were so many big games that had a lot to build up to. Mainly in the AAA space. There was a ton of great surprises, but I feel like this was a year that was going to be defined by huge releases, and the end of huge releases. Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain, Arkham Knight was coming to a close. Witcher 3, I mean, not the close, but then again, I think CD Projekt Red did say this might have been the final one, but due to the reception of it, they want to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, this one was way bigger than the other two. And I'll be honest, Witcher 1, Witcher 2, not a big fan of. Don't like the game mechanics all that much.
That's it. I mean, you could see there's awesome things apart, and you could see why these games would be awesome. I did like The Witcher 2. I didn't play a ton of it.
Yeah,
Again, Witcher 1 I never played, I fully admit, but I know people did love it. But Witcher 2's combat, it's a love or hate thing, and it starts tough. And that's, a lot of people drop it right then.
And that's the thing, 3 didn't do that for me.
No.
When I started to play 3, I was like, okay, they've made the game, they've made the game that has the complexity and nuances of Witcher 1 and 2, but they're giving the regular players a way to get in. It's not that I can't play those games, it's just that the mechanics of them...
Is it worth...
Yeah, right? And that doesn't really play with me. It's like when you look at the original XCOM games, they're very complex, but really cool games that offer a lot of different things. But
we all forget to start off.
Oh, yeah,
it's not a big deal.
About that. But yeah, it's one of those games that really did play a number on me, because when I went to go play the original XCOM, because I was so excited for the new one to come out, I was thinking, well, it's gonna change. Like, it can't be the same game. But when the new XCOM came out, not the third-person crazy...
Yeah, we'll forget that even happened.
Yeah. I'm talking about Enemy Unknown.
Yeah.
When Enemy Unknown came out, I was so impressed by the fact that they made a game that felt so much like the original, but stripped out all the unnecessary complexity, right?
And just, it's a better game for it.
And honest to God, when I played Enemy Unknown, I was like, this is one of the greatest games I've ever played of XCOM. And it makes you feel like, wow, I didn't know how much I liked XCOM until I played this game.
It needs to say you're really excited about XCOM 2 coming out for 2016, which we'll get to a little bit later, yeah?
It's one of those things where I don't even know what the story is. I don't really care about the story in the first one, but the gameplay and the strategy in it is so damn solid that I just can't wait to try the next one.
So yeah, overall, I did enjoy. There was a lot of games I missed out on, and I haven't got to this year because of one thing or the other. Again, time. But there were some disappointments to me, and I think we'll get to those later. So let's just jump right into. I suppose we can go shot for shot. Some of the games that really stood out, and maybe at the end we can go, what is our game of the year? Okay, I don't know, but yeah, I used to do this thing where we do categories, score of the year, but I think this is a little bit off the cuff, and it is my first episode, so maybe next year we can save it for that.
All right, that's fine, yeah.
I guess I'll kind of go chronologically. A standout game for me that I didn't play enough of was Bloodborne. Okay. And it's strange, I have this love-hate thing with the Souls games. I fully admit, I know people are going to say this get good thing, and trust me, I play a lot of difficult games, and I pride myself on being able to, maybe not the most difficult, extreme.
I get that,
but I play action games, 3D action games on the most hard thing. I love that Twitch gameplay, but it's something that I played Demon Souls, I played Dark Souls 1, I played Dark Souls 2, and I only finished Demon Souls. Now, everyone says the combat is so great. I don't love the combat. To me, it seems janky, although it is fluid. I know people are probably like, this guy, I want to hurt this guy right now. But anyway, that's just how I felt. But Bloodborne was a little bit different. The reason I didn't get all the way through it was a recurring problem I have with a lot of games this year is that on release, those load times, I just couldn't deal with them.
Yeah.
And you do die a lot initially. Like everyone says these games are so hard. I really don't think they're overly difficult games. It's just, you grasp the mechanics, you learn a level. It's the way we used to play games growing up.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's what people love about them, I think. It's just in a beautiful aesthetic. But what Bloodborne did was capture the mood. And it's something completely different. Well, not different, but a different a setting than what the other Souls games were. And I love that. And now with the Game of the Year edition, I mean, it's already out in Europe and Japan. I know it's coming here. I just don't know when. With the Old Hunters DLC. I'm going to jump in. Like, I played probably about 5-6 hours of it, and I'm like, I'm going to love this game when they fix those load times. And I know they have. I mean, they're not perfect now. I think they're down to like 4 or 5 seconds, whereas before they were like 15 to 17 seconds, which is just, I just can't do that anymore. I'm not going to put up with it. So yeah, did you play Bloodborne this year?
I didn't play Bloodborne, but I did play a couple of the Souls games. For me, it's like, what you were talking about when you die and you don't respawn quick enough. Can I swear?
Absolutely. This is explicit. Yeah.
I hate games.
No, please swear, because that's it.
Oh my god. So it's like, this is like my biggest problem. Super Meat Boy is difficult, but the difficulty is the gameplay and the
and it's immediate.
You die.
Limbo.
But right, exactly. You're back on your feet. You're there again. You die, you learn, you die, you learn, you die, you learn, you die, you win. And I love that kind of gameplay. FTL feels the exact same way to me. When you die, it's a quick thing, and then you can go back and learn it. Or it's going to be a slow and drawn-out process where it's like, okay, I can stop the game right here and go back. I like, but the way that Super Meat Boy dealt with death was such a brilliant way. And when I play Dark Souls, I feel like it doesn't do the same thing. And it's a much slower experience, and for me, that's the most irritating part. It's like in Metal Gear Solid 5, which is a game where you go from one area to another, you riding on a helicopter, you're doing all that shit, and it takes you like an hour of gameplay just to fly, and I'm like, I don't care, spawn me there.
Yeah.
I want to be there and play,
Yeah, we'll get to Metal Gear. I mean, I suppose I'm pretty much done with Bloodborne. I did like the game, I will jump into it, but you're right, that mechanic of, I hear people talk, it's rewarding, it teaches you to play. But what is different in... Every game does that to a certain extent.
Exactly,
whether I play Devil May Cry, whether I play Bayonetta, tons of games have fail states. I am learning through fail states in every game.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
So why is that exclusive? I'm going on a bit of, this is my Souls rant. I've always wanted to get into... I'd love to do... an enthusiast versus the naysayer in terms of the Souls games, because I get everything about them, but the complaints I have, I think, are extremely valid, and you can't just explain those away by just deal with it and get good, and that's the rewarding part.
It's like because there's a lot of people that really enjoy those quick experiences where they die or the super difficulty, and there's a lot of gamers that are coming to age now where they didn't grow up with these really difficult arcade games, so they play these really hard games and go, well, this is cool.
Yeah.
There's actual gameplay here. It's like, yeah, man, not everything's Halo, and it's amazing, right? But they couldn't get that. And when I see Dark Souls, I see how amazing it is and what it's trying to do. But for me, it's like, as a gamer, I've progressed beyond this already, and I'm looking at other games that are offering that same kind of experience, but they're also giving you a really strong narrative or some different kind of gameplay mechanic that switches up.
See, now people, the Pro Souls crowd will say they like that the narrative is there and it doesn't hit you in the face. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with doing a little bit of digging. But, I mean, again, I never finished the game, so I can't speak to Bloodborne's narrative or lack thereof. I suppose.
Well, nobody ever talks about the story. I mean,
some people do, though. You go on YouTube, and there is stories, they patch those threads together no matter how much they're reaching. And I think some of them do make sense. Like, I like that little bit of, this is the way it was, it's like this now because, and this person, this boss,
it's
is
like,
this, that, and those threads connect.
It's like Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff like that. People are like reaching beyond the elements of the story to try and find, or the game to find more story. Although, arguably, I think in terms of games that have narrative, when I think of Bloodborne's gameplay and the way that it kind of presents itself, I like it's the way it treats fights is the same way Zelda treats puzzles. You know, it's like you're in a fight, now you have to figure out the best way to beat that combat. And in that in of itself is sort of this kind of, you know, violent puzzle. And I think that's kind of cool, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, if I have to play a game that's going to be challenging me in that respect, I'd rather be playing a game that has like a neat story that is going to project in some way.
I tend to be that. I think that is part. I think that's a great way to end the Bloodborne conversation, or Souls in general. Is I'm the same way. And since you did talk about Metal Gear, let's talk about. That was a huge problem I have with Metal Gear this year.
That was Metal Gear Solid 5 was one of my biggest disappointments.
Thank you.
This year.
And we're gonna be holding hands and saying that because I am. Okay, I'm not gonna sit here and tell I'm the biggest. I am a massive Metal Gear fan.
I don't want to say I'm the biggest, but I'm probably not the biggest, but I'm pretty damn big. Like, I got all the Metal Gear games.
Yeah,
I played them all.
Substance.
Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2 are some of my favorite PSP games. It's insane. And you know what? Metal Gear fans in general usually go, oh, Acid sucks. Well, Acid is still a fun game. Even at that point, I'm still enjoying those games.
Sure. It's a completely different take.
It is.
The way they play.
It is. Like, I love Ghost Babel, you know, it's pretty much the older Metal Gear. Like, Metal Gear, I remember Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 for the MSX. I actually emulated an MSX in a fan's translation just to play those games on my computer before they were released on the PlayStation 2 years previously, because I was so engaged with Metal Gear and I wanted to see where the story actually came from, because as a lot of us know, they didn't come from the NES, right?
That's right.
And I own Snake's Revenge, and I own the NES versions of the Metal Gear games, and they're completely crap, but I would keep them in my collection just because they have that Metal Gear branding on them, and it sucks, but...
And it gives you the building blocks of where solid... I remember reading... I mean, game fan in these beautiful game magazines growing up, and months and or almost a full year, I suppose, the hype train started for me with Metal Gear Solid. I remember seeing this game, and I was like, I remember playing that.
Yeah.
And it didn't really have an impact on me. I was a Sega kid growing up, through and through. It's just, I don't know, we were a weird bunch, but that's just the way we were.
In that room over there, for people at home that are just listening to the audio, I've got a room over there, and in that room there is a stack of like 7 or 8 video game magazines I will never sell. On the top of that is a copy of Next Generation. It's a yellow copy of the magazine, and it's got Meryl Silverberg on it, and in it it's the first revelation of what Metal Gear Solid's going to be, and it's got like beta shots of the game and everything. That was my first knowledge about Metal Gear Solid. And a couple of months after I read that article, they released a demo that was in Japanese. When I first played Metal Gear Solid, I was like, holy shit, this is where games can go now. And that is when I started to realize that games can be on the same narrative level as movies and books. Because up until that point, we had a lot of video games that were really good.
I completely agree, and I think a lot of people share that thought process. I remember Shadow Moses Island and the Fox Archipelago, and just hearing Roy Campbell break that down, I was like, holy shit, we're in the sub.
It blew my mind, because like I am a classic gamer, and before Metal Gear Solid, I think there are tons of games that had really strong narratives, but the way that they projected those narratives onto the player wasn't in the way that was cinematic. is like, Zork has a really good story if you really want to pay attention to Zork's story, but it's like a novel, and it was presenting, all these games presented stories in a way that a novel would, not in the way that a film would, and that's what Metal Gear Solid really, I felt, changed things for me. There were other video games before that, like Snatcher, but I had never actually played Snatcher because, surprise, surprise, Sega CD wasn't so popular around these parts. But, I really feel like Metal Gear Solid 5...
Yeah, tie it back in, and it's like, because I played, again, I feel, although I've always enjoyed the gameplay.
Yeah.
And the wrinkles and the boss battles were phenomenal, fantastic, famous for them. But I played these games for the narrative, the story, and the characters. And I'm sorry, Metal Gear Solid 5 falls completely flat in that respect. I love the gameplay because those threads tied the gameplay sections together.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't, I never felt like I was marching from this corridor to another cutscene, to another cutscene. It was just, they flowed together seamless. I love those. And I felt like, I don't know whether Kojima took the criticisms from Metal Gear Solid 4 too much to heart, or he listened too much to those naysayers versus the people that love Metal Gear Solid 4. Because when I played Peace Walker, it was like everything I really didn't want in a mainline Metal Gear game. I felt the
exact same way. I didn't like Peace Walker either.
But I accepted it because I didn't play it until it was done in the HD remaster. I mean, I've had PSP, I played Vita, but when I'm playing those games, it's not something I idealize in a handheld.
Seriously, Peace Walker was a console experience pushed down to a PSP, and
it was originally supposed to be Metal Gear Solid 5.
And I feel like that worked better on a console. So I think the console version is a far better experience, I believe.
I agree.
And just because of the little change they did. But for Metal Gear Solid 5, I do not believe it was Kojima's fault that the game turned out the way it did. This is one of the
we're going to have a great conversation about this.
Because this is one of the few experiences where I can honestly look at the game and go, there are literally points in the game that are missing.
Oh, 100%. It's an unfinished, objectively, it is an unfinished game.
And that is my problem.
In so many respects, not just narratively, but gameplay as well. The plans were, there were supposed to be dogs. There were supposed to be so many other ways to play this game.
Yes, exactly. And like, it was those tiny little things that I think, I felt like when I played Ground Zeroes, I felt like I understood what Ground Zeroes was trying to be, and I was like, okay, you want to make...
It's so much better!
Right? Ground Zeroes is like, okay, you want to build these smaller sequences of closed-off areas that become larger elements of a gameplay. And in each one of those areas, it adds to the narrative and the gameplay and the story and everything. And when I was playing Ground Zeroes, I was like, I get this. There's a limitation of what they're doing here in terms of what you can do. But it felt like I had a billion different options to achieve any kind of goal. When Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, it was 1,000,001 options to achieve any one goal, like way more, billion, but like instead of like a 10 ways to achieve something in Ground Zeroes, it was like 1,000 ways.
Yeah.
But the problem was every single one of those 1,000 ways you're never going to use. You're only use like 3 ways.
Because how do we play Metal Gear? We want to stealth. We don't go in guns blazing. And I feel like so many of those aspects of building and adding on and all these weapons, I'm never going to use because I feel like the game... Now, I've had conversations about this, but the way... When I say it punishes you, I don't mean it really punishes you, but in terms of the fact that it has, when you finish a mission, it scores you.
Yeah.
And if you do not play the game tactically, stealthily, you are actually penalized for that.
But that, exactly. So why the hell did we have 156 million different guns,
which I'm never going to use?
I'm just like, dude, give me 12 different variations of silenced pistols and silenced weapons and like darts to put people up. I want ways to go in stealthily, but they literally made the game in a way where you could play 2 different aspects, which was fine. But then when you got to fight the bosses had the same fucking problem that you saw with Deus Ex years previously. Because with Deus Ex Human Revolution, you had all these characters or these boss battles that were made by a completely different company outside of Ubisoft, right? And then those boss battles, let's say you played your character stealthily, like I did, because that's how I've always played Deus Ex games. And then when you got to the boss battle, you're screwed because you didn't build a character that's able to fight
them. Yeah.
And Metal Gear Solid 5, I felt the exact same way, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, because your build, you bring a tactical stealth build in, and then all of a sudden you got to fight this. But then again, there wasn't a hell of a lot of bosses in the game anyway.
It was like one variation of boss,
and which is a huge thing. I Metal Gear Solid 3 is one of my top 5 games of all time.
Yes, yeah.
And I fully believe it is the best game in a franchise of greats. Although I don't feel this game is great. But everything that I loved about Metal Gear Solid 3 isn't really in this game.
I agree. I honestly think what they were trying to achieve with Metal Gear Solid 5 could have worked, but it would have required a lot more time, which is where I think the interesting conversation can be had with Kojima. Was Kojima fired because of some differences he had, or was Kojima fired because he went up to his bosses and went, hey, this is going to take me another 2 years to finish?
Yeah.
Like, what was that?
Complete conjecture. My personal feeling only. I feel like Konami's a business. They're assholes. They've done a shitty job. But we know that they gave him at least $80 million and 5 years to make this game. In there, I don't know how much was used to create the Fox engine, which is an absolute shame that he's not ever going to be able to use this engine. It is the best, most transferable, beautiful engine. Like, look how Metal Gear Solid 5 looked on PS3 and 360.
It looked that's something I will never. That game, I could set the graphics to top on my computer and it didn't stress out the system.
No.
And it looked amazing. And there were so many. I remember turning that engine on and just going, it doesn't suck. Like, it should suck. It should suck because I played Black Ops 3 on the PlayStation 4, and I bought it on PC first, and I returned my PC version because the PC version just didn't work that well. And I'm thinking, here's a company that has millions of dollars invested into making the same engine.
Optimize.
And it blew my mind. And here comes Kojima with an engine that just worked.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I couldn't understand that. And honestly, that engine is worth its weight in gold, but you know what? They're never going to make a Pachinko machine out of that engine.
So I don't know what happened. And this, my personal feeling, and I'm not a fanboy about too many things, but I am a Kojima fanboy. I drink that Kool-Aid, man. I don't care. His story, I'll hear people say the stories are always stupid, but you know what? I love that stupidity. In every single one of those stories are fantastic. You can see his mindset. I still feel like the ending of Metal Gear Solid 2 is even more relevant today than it was when it happened.
I agree, yeah.
I mean, just the overarching themes are so on point and progressive. And in the mud of all that silliness, which I love, because I love over-the-top stuff,
absolutely, yeah.
are fantastic themes. And I just don't see it in 5.
It's 2, I think, was not that 2 was hated when it came out, but I think 2 has aged better as we've gotten older.
I completely agree.
Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 I think are a really fantastic experience of games combined, and I think you could just play 1 and play 3 and you'd be fine. You don't have to play all the games. I think those ones really work. 2 is still really good. I'm not a huge fan of 4. I'm not a big fan of Peace Walker, but let me tell you, when it comes to 5, I'm out. The gameplay worked really well in instances, but became too muddied with just a billion different things going on. It really felt like, and narratively, there's chunks of the story that are just missing. This isn't like, this is just the thing. I think we both agree, when we say that the game isn't finished, we're not trying to say, it's our opinion. We're literally saying...
No, I'm literally saying this is an unfinished game, and I really don't think that's an opinion you can argue.
Yeah, and it's not a hit against Kojima. It's whoever was like he like they released the game when he's not even at the company anymore. Yeah. So it's like
I really think they said, okay, where are you? And he's like, there's obviously supposed to be a chapter 3. There had to have been. Yeah. He had all these gameplay ideas. It's obvious that Mother Base was supposed to be so much more. I mean, I wouldn't have mind building all those weapons if it actually made sense to have my crew have it. And what is the reason for even going back to Mother Base half the time? Nothing.
And that's something I was so, my God, let's say I spent about 60, 70 hours playing that damn game. 20 hours was spent just on the helicopter. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. And then the I don't want to spoil anything, but the ending feels rushed.
Oh, 100%.
The story feels like, okay, let's just clip these segments and put them together. And I felt like it was so, and this is the first time I'm ever going to say this, I felt the story from Metal Gear Solid 5 was brain dead stupid.
Yep.
Compared to where 3 was, dealing with incredibly emotional events that really play with the character.
And a fantastic pillar character in the boss.
God, yes.
I mean, it begins with her, and to me, she's the best female character ever realized in video games. I've always thought that.
I really felt like, because
I shouldn't even say female, just character period.
It's true. You know, it's funny because it's not like not every female character is written as a love interest, but Metal Gear Solid 3, it's this amazing respect and friendship that isn't about love, and that's something you rarely ever see tacked on. You see it in movies, you see it in books, you rarely ever see that in video games. And in the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3, which I am not going to spoil,
my God.
but that ending makes you the person that
I swear to God, choice. Shane, I stood up and saluted, and I've cried in 2 endings ever, and I'll admit, I may not look it, but I am a bit of a softie. But I remember finishing that game and standing up and saluting with a tear coming down my eye. It was the character was tragic, strong, and just everything about it I loved. But anyway, it's like tying it into the Metal Gear Solid 3 conversation we're having. Metal Gear Solid 5 was billed as that missing link. And I felt like because we know it's supposed to be quote-unquote the end, and of the way it was billed to tie into Metal Gear and Zanzibar Land and Outer Heaven, and it did none of that.
Oh my God, it pissed me off so much because, like, what did everyone hate about, and you can't say this without spoiling it, but something very important about the character you're playing turns out not to be really that character that you're playing. And what really irritated me was, okay, look, I get it. We want to see how Big Boss becomes a villain. We want to see after 3. I get it. After 3, it's like, dude, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
The build it, it's there.
Right? But Kojima is saying, hey, no, there's something more.
Yeah.
And so we got Peace Walker. And what with Portable Ops. But hey, no, there's something more. There's something even more? Okay, show me. And when they start to build these little pieces and show how he's like a destroyed, like you've seen it in the game, he's missing his arm and all that stuff. Like these are all in the previews and stuff like that. I mean, geez, if you didn't know he was missing your arm, you got the special version of the game. Literally, the game came with an arm. So like that happens. But all those elements, when they get put together and you see how it all combines, it's like, oh God, you just made episode 1.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You didn't.
Where is the rest?
Yeah.
And it's not even about the missing chapter 51, Kingdom of the Flies.
Yeah.
That even doesn't, I mean, although that does tie up an arc in the game.
Oh, if they put it in there, I still would have been
Still had massive problems with it. It was, I mean, we could probably talk about this for another 40 minutes because I just have massive problems. I don't know if we'll ever truly know what happened because unfortunately games and people in this, I mean, there's not very many good games journalists, quote unquote, or that want to, and not many people want to talk. I mean, they don't want to step on toes and things. I don't know if we'll ever truly know what happened, but I think it was a joint fault. A lot of people want to let Kojima off the hook, but I don't think that's fair. It's just because the pattern of Konami with what happened with PT and the shit that came out of them spying, I mean, they just seem like an awful company, yes. But I think from a business standpoint, they had a point. But then it comes to the fact, should they have let... I mean, you don't know how the situation was handled. All those details that came to the big thing, you don't know. But ultimately, what we got was a massive disappointment.
I personally believe that in a couple of years, when Konami realizes how much money, in their business, when they realize how much money they can make from a director's cut version of this game, that reinstitute, like, all they have to do is just go, like, okay, let's bring.
Because the bones have to be there. Yeah. I mean, the stuff has to be there.
It has to be. There's elements missing that we know exist. So they're probably going to make some kind of director's cut version with which adds a bunch of stuff that they missed. Hell, you never know. Konami might just put up a ship and go, okay, we're dumb, we're stupid, we're going out of business. Let's sell our IPs. And then a company like EA or somebody picks it up and goes, okay, let's hire that Kojima guy in and tell him to fix the game.
Or, I mean, if the situation continues with Sony, as we've seen, that's where he's going, maybe they buy the IP. I mean, there's so many hypotheticals going. Okay, to close this out, if they did make a director's cut without Kojima, I mean, they have stated, I don't know whether this is a safe face or not, but they have stated they would like to continue the franchise without Kojima. How do you feel about that?
I don't think it's a good idea at all.
Okay.
I mean, we don't play Metal Gear Solid because of Metal Gear Solid. We play Metal Gear Solid because it's Kojima. And if you take Kojima, it's like, think of like the Terminator movies after they removed Cameron from it. It's like James Cameron was Terminator. Mm-hmm. He understood why those characters existed. When you start to bring on other creators, they lose the reference. It's like there are people that get inspired by certain movies and certain games, and they try and make those things, but then they miss the characters. They miss the point of why those characters exist, because the creator itself is like, this character, like when you watch Terminator, you're not watching this amazing action film. You're watching a slasher fic. Like, that's all it is. It's
taking those things from Terminator 2, but without the soul.
And right?
applying them again.
And that's what I think a lot of people tend to miss. They miss the foundation of why that gets made. And I think with Metal Gear Solid, if Konami dares give somebody the creative control of it and makes like Metal Gear Solid 6, you're going to get a game that is not going to make any sense. And honestly, it's a game that uses a lot of Western ideas and Western values in its narrative. So you're going to get another Japanese creator who I imagine they'd get a Japanese creator. That's just how I think Konami works. And if they do that, they're going to get somebody, they're going to have to get somebody who understands, where Metal Gear came from, those movies that inspired that game. Why is Snake named Snake? Why does he go by the name Snake Plissken? Like, that's a movie reference. Why are these characters in this world? How they exist? Why did Kojima use like David Bowie music in certain scenes? There are reasons.
Can we talk? Okay, real quick. I mean, in his quest to get all this detail, like all that money he spent on licensed music, it just seems like a complete waste to me. It doesn't help me capture that period at all. I mean, it's fun to hear when you walk into a base, but I think those are the problems Konami had. Like, where was this money that we gave you? Where the hell did it go? Did it go on 80s tracks that we buy for tapes that we may or may not ever see? I don't know.
They bought Japan music.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, is that Japan? Like, I was hearing Billy Idol, Japan, and then you're hearing... But it's funny, you don't even hear the David Bowie version of The Man Who Sold the World. You're hearing... it's like a cover version somebody did from England, like years after the fact or whatever. It's hilarious because you're hearing all these songs. I'm just like... He's like the Quentin Tarantino of video games. Like, the dude hears this music and is like Joan Baez on the first what's it called? Not Metal Gear Solid 5, but not Peace Walker. Not Peace Walker.
Portal Ops. Peace Walker.
No. The demo that they released and they sold for full price.
Ground Zeroes.
You hear that Joan Baez song? Here's to you.
Here's to you.
That one. Yeah. That song, when it's playing, it's giving this really, like, there's no dialogue. It's just driving.
Yeah, but it's a throwback to, he used Here's to You as a ending song in one of the other games. I can't remember now.
And that song, it has purpose.
There's a purpose to it.
I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm going to... Okay, spoilers. One scene, Metal Gear Solid 5, I have to talk to you about before we drop it. In the beginning, when they use that music in that game, that song fits so well, and it has this layer of emotion, and it really, really hammers the idea home. In Metal Gear Solid 5, they try to repeat the exact same scene on a Jeep with two characters looking at each other, and I could have not been more bored. Oh my god.
Just bomb. I know, it bombs so bad.
It's like, but see... I look at that, I'm like, there's no way Hideo Kojima made that scene. Like, there's no fucking way. Dude made a scene where you're climbing up a ladder seem interesting. There is no fucking way he did that.
I know, and there's so many unknowns. I just hope we can get to the bottom. Real quick, I'm going to blow your mind. I actually would like to see a new person's take on it, which seems completely blasphemous because I didn't like the last two Metal Gear games, and that was a long time. Part of me, as a huge fan, wonders if Kojima was just going in a direction that I didn't like anymore with Metal Gear.
Was he being forced to make
I don't know.
Right?
There are so many... And I think this next game that he's making with his new studio will answer a lot of my questions. Can he still make fantastic games that I love with that Kojima feeling? I think he can, and I'm not doubting him, but there was just a small part of me that would like to see someone... For instance... I love the boss so much, and there had always been a rumor that she would get her own game, storming the beaches of Normandy and things like that.
I remember that, yeah.
I would love to see a take on that. I don't know. And I'd love to just see someone try. Just to see. I don't know. And maybe they could say, see, I told you so, it'll fall flat. But I'd probably buy it. Because I just didn't like Metal Gear Solid 5 at all. Didn't like it.
Honestly, I feel like there's some really good gameplay elements there. I think the engine is really solid. And you know what? Maybe somebody else gets their hands on it. They'd be able to do something really interesting. But I think the world is so complex and dirty now that it'd be really hard to get something effectively across.
All right.
I feel like a reboot would be more in order.
I know, and that'd be so hard to do. Okay, we need. I mean, we could do a Metal Gear podcast.
It's a big game.
It is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's another game. What's another game?
I guess Fallout 4 was a pretty big.
Huge.
Like, that's a huge.
I didn't play Fallout 4, so you take it.
Okay, so Fallout 4 for me, I like Fallout 3. I like New Vegas a heck of a lot more.
That was my next question. Did you like New Vegas or Fallout 3? I feel New Vegas is a better game.
I feel New Vegas is a better game because I think it gives you more control over the story, and that's what an RPG is to me when it comes to the Fallout games. Fallout 1 and 2, you have so much control over what your character says and does. In Fallout 3, some of that control was removed, but it's still there. It's just not as strong as 1 and 2. And then New Vegas, it came back and was like, New Vegas, hey, everything you like about 1 and 2 is back in. I was like, kick ass. Mm-hmm. Everything's there. Beautiful. When 4 came out, there's a lot of really cool, interesting stuff about 4. I do not like the main quest.
Okay.
But the game is so big that you really don't have to play the main quest to enjoy it. Like, there is so much going on.
Were 3 and 4's main quest, was the writing ever a strong suit, though?
I found that I really liked the way that 3 gave you this relationship with your father. And for 3... really, the whole reason I like 3's story is the very end, when you have this choice that you have to make, and the only way that this one machine is going to work is based off of something that you must remember from your childhood, and I love that. There's a way that you can tell the game to give you a really big hint about what you're supposed to do, but as soon as I saw the number pad on this one sequence, I was like, I know what that was. And I was like, when they did that, I was like, that's beautiful. Like, that was good. New Vegas, I felt, was better because it felt like any moment you have control over the story, you feel like, is that character pissing you off? Do you feel like he ripped you off? Well, you can kill him. You can destroy him, or you could like let him live. And Fallout 3, it never gave me that exact same form of control. But 4 did none of that. Mm-hmm. 4 literally was the game that did it wrong, in my opinion. I think with 4, what the biggest problem
was... It's like Fallout with training wheels in some sort of way.
Fallout with the Mass Effect dialogue system, which I like Mass Effect, but I still felt like its dialogue system gave me clear definitions of what I should say.
Yeah, I mean, if Fallout 4 existed in a vacuum, you might be okay with it. But seeing what Fallout came from with conversation options, do anything options... Fallout 4 seemed like a disappointment to a lot of purists.
I think that's the biggest problem I have with the game is that I never felt like I had control. Mm-hmm. I felt like my character was going to say something that may work or may not work, and I think its dialogue system is terrible. Like, there's a lot of people who praise the dialogue system. They're wrong. If you are reviewing,
there's already mods out to fix it, and this is part of my problem with Bethesda games in general. I'm not the biggest fan. Again, I'm on the Souls thing, and now I'm on the Bethesda things. People are just gonna be like, but I think they're ugly games. I think they run like shit, and I don't think there's any excuse for it.
4 runs good though. But 4 only crashed once.
See, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, some people didn't have a problem with Battlefield 4, but it didn't mean the problems weren't there.
Yeah, I get that.
It's just... I mean, the reason I haven't played this game is not because I don't want to play it. I want to play it. But again, off camera, we were talking about my huge problem with open world games. Today, I refuse to buy them day one now. Because they run so much better 5-6 months removed after
I agree, yep.
10 friggin' patches. And I am not a beta tester. I'm not going to pay $60, $70 to be a beta tester anymore.
Yep.
My gaming tastes are refined now, and my time is far too valuable for me to deal with this crap. And it's like... Bethesda is a habitual line stepper, you know, I'm not gonna deal with it.
No, believe me, I totally get what you're saying.
And those excuses of it's just do anything and you can stack fucking cheese wheels in a house and it's gonna whatever. I'm like, I don't care about that.
But see, that right there is the problem I have, because when people say that, the cheese wheels argument is a great thing. You can just get all the cheese wheels in the game. You can put it in that one house if you want to. Yeah, but. That's nothing. That's something you can do in Gary's mod. When I say I want to do something different, I want to change the story from one thing to something else based off choices I've been giving in the game. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Bethesda games never really live up to that aspect. New Vegas really did that for me. New Vegas is like, dude, there are paths you can take. and there are ways you can play this game. And 4 felt so limited in that way, in that respect. Not to knock, I think the gameplay on 4 is much
I was just
more
that was my next question. In terms of it probably plays better than ever before.
I feel it does. I mean, like, look, the original Fallout 1, 2, and even Tactics, and Tactics is really just all about the gameplay. Those games really are good with the way that they treat their gameplay, and it's a very straightforward kind of gameplay mechanic, and I get it. 3, I don't think was a great shooter, and it was trying to be a shooter in some respects. I felt that New Vegas improved on it a little bit, but it still had some of the faults of 3 built into it. I felt 4 was a better shooter, and it tried to have some better RPG elements to it, but I felt that there was a lot of cases where they simplified it or dumbed it down for the modern audience. This is where I have my biggest problem with 4. 4 essentially is Fallout 3 dumbed down a little bit to make it easier.
I've heard that a lot.
But what I don't understand is, who are you dumbing it down for? See, I couldn't understand that.
Because your fans are your fans. They like that stuff.
Yeah, like, are you dumbing it down for people that never played Fallout before? Well,
yeah.
Why?
I agree.
Even then, I get it. Like, they want to get more people buying the game, whatever. That's cool. It's just when I played Fallout 4, it felt dumbed down in the ways that it didn't need to be dumbed down in, right? It dumbed down the dialogue system, which is like, yeah, but the dialogue system was smart before, and it worked really efficiently. You didn't need to dumb that down. The gameplay mechanics, where there's a lot more shooting stuff in there. Well, I get what you're trying to do, but dude, you're not going to compete against Call of Duty.
Yeah, you're not going to be as good as even the above average shooters.
Right.
So, it became a shooter from being a tactical VATS-based thing, and
And that's what I couldn't understand. They were trying to make Fallout something that it wasn't. And I was just like, I don't understand exactly what the idea here is that you're trying to go for. There are narrative strands in there and a bunch of world-exploring elements that are brilliant, and for that, I love Fallout, and I did enjoy my experience. But it was the single-player experience, or the main story, the main quest, that pulled me so far away, and I was just like, holy shit, why? Because there was a point when I got to, I think it was like 75% of the story, and I was like, okay, I know what the ending is now. You didn't do any job here to prevent this from happening. And I was like, I hope they change it. But as soon as you got to the ending, done. Yeah, you call it. You call it right from the get-go.
So did you finish it?
Yeah, but I didn't.
You just begrudgingly, just to say you finished it.
It's just like, it's like, what they did in it was, they create this really good, important thing that you need to do. But that important thing becomes less important as you go along. In Fallout 3... Not to spoil anything, this like right at the beginning of the game, you gotta find your father.
Yeah.
In Fallout New Vegas, you have to seek revenge. But when you seek revenge, which can happen pretty early into the game, once you've done that, there's a world that explores out to you, and that story becomes far more complex. In Fallout 4, you're looking for your son. That's what it's about. It's like it's right at the beginning of the game. Like it's right there.
So it's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No. Yeah.
Just something that came if I don't say it now. What did you think about having a voice protagonist this time?
I didn't despise it.
Okay.
What I didn't
because I didn't mind it either, just from the outside looking.
I was fine. I thought it was a good voice actor. He did a good job. It's just the dialogue system played into that, and I think that soured my opinion of having him there. But I'll tell you this much. Ron Perlman needed to be the voice actor for the intro of the game, and he wasn't. Every Fallout game, at the very beginning, except I think for Brotherhood of Steel, but nobody really cares about that one. It's like the black sheep of the games.
Okay.
There is Ron Perlman introduces the world and goes, war never changes, and it has that whole thing to him, right? And that's really important. When I say what the fuck was Bethesda thinking when removing one of the best voice actors, one of the greatest actors of our generation, you removed Hellboy from Fallout, which is just like, why would you do that? This is what I couldn't understand. I would get that if you started the game and the narrative was read by the male all the way through. But you can start the game right after that intro video and become a female. And the intro is still written or read out by the male voice actor.
Yeah.
So I was just like...
Puzzling, especially off the beginning. Like, generally in games, the first act is the most polished. And then sometimes it can fall clear because most people don't finish games, so they concentrate everything at the beginning.
And I was just like, but... What? Like, are you dumb? Like, why did you do that? Ron Perlman introduces the world, and then it would go, now you are a parent. in this pre-World War society, something like that, and it would have been like, okay, now you get to choose to be the man, or you get to choose to be the woman, or whatever, and then the world can go off from there. And then if at the ending you want that character to read off everything, fine. But Ron Perlman needs to introduce, or some outside voice actor needs to introduce that, because what happens is in Fallout 3 or Fallout 4, right at the beginning, it's talking about you were in the army and stuff like that. It's kind of giving off those notes. But that's the male character who is in the army.
Yeah.
So when the mom you choose as the female character and you run into the mix, well, she wasn't in the army. How the hell is she so good at doing all these things?
I think they try to patch in a story later or something, don't they? But it still doesn't make sense because the beginning, like you said, recommend. Yeah.
Seriously, removing Ron Perlman was some kind of bizarre creative choice, and it's like, if there's one thing you wanted to do with Fallout 4,
maybe it cost too much.
Oh, really?
But I know, but they got. I know.
Like they paid so much to make that game. This is the thing. The one thing they could have done to make people that played the original Fallout games happy about this game is keep Ron Perlman in. It's the one thing you don't fuck up with Fallout. It's like, hey, you know what Doom's about? Doom's about shooting demons. If you remove demons from Doom and you make it a game about playing hockey, then you fucked up Doom. So when you remove Ron Perlman from a Fallout game, that's pretty much like taking the lead actor from, like Luke Skywalker, out of Star Wars. Like, dude, it's the grounding point. He grounds the beginning of the story and the end of the story and creates this very logical narrative loop of the stories that creates it not as a Fallout game, but as a book, like a novelization that you are reading a part of and dictating the story of until you come back to him. Removing that aspect is the cheekiest, asshole-ish thing you could possibly do to hardcore fans. I personally wasn't offended, but I know a lot of people out there were.
This is a very touchy subject for Shane.
Oh my god.
I love it. I love it. So, needless to say, not a huge fan of Fallout 4 this year.
Well, I like the gameplay. I really did. I really, really did. I thought it was the best that they've done since 3. I really felt like they really improved upon it. There were characters in Fallout 4 that I was so in love with. Like, these characters, I'm like, I don't even care about my own character. Fallout 4 surprised me in that I didn't care about my character's story, but I cared about everybody else's story. And then that's when I started to enjoy the world, when I realized, you know what, I'm exploring their worlds, their stories, their narrative structures. And that's when I had a lot of fun. Whenever I focused on my character's story, it was just like paint the numbers brown. I was like, whatever. But in the I feel that the more fun you'd have in Fallout 4 is just throwing the main story aside and getting lost in the world. That's where I feel you have a lot of fun with that game.
I've always felt like that's part of the strengths of Fallout in general anyway, but it sucks that the main quest didn't live up to Billy.
It just didn't live up to me. I know that's just a personal...
No, but I've heard it from a lot of longtime fans as well. You're not alone, so don't worry about it. But let's get to something on a happier note. Those are back-to-back, rants, which are well warranted. But I'm going to go with a game that I absolutely loved this year. And it's not even a full game. It's an expansion. But the content befits it being mentioned. I mean, it's huge. Which is Final Fantasy XIV Heaven's Ward.
Okay, so I haven't played that one at all.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Listen, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. Final Fantasy XI was my first MMO. I played it for years and years and years. Shame to say I hacked a lot and made some money off of it. But Final Fantasy XIV it streamlines everything about it. And it took... I feel like Final Fantasy XIV... I'll get to the expansion and pack, but just real quick, it was the beginning of Square's almost renaissance. Now, we've yet to see the fruition of that renaissance yet, but it's when they turned the corner a bit after the Final Fantasy XIII and some really bad decisions. They changed a lot of management, and the Final Fantasy XIV original release was an absolute mess. Unmitigated disaster. But bravo to them. They said, fuck this game, we are really sorry. New management, we are rebuilding it. And some people might say it's like, they took a lot of things from WoW or whatever, but I never played WoW, so I don't care. But this game is fast, it's beautiful, it's fun, and the main campaign, believe it or not, even in 11, the main campaign was actually fantastic. Now, it took for a lot in 11 for you to get through it, but it was super rewarding. And it's rightfully so. A lot of people are like, oh, it's an MMO, it's not a real Final Fantasy game. No, they are real Final Fantasy games, just completely different. 14's story is great. Of course, it has the MMO things of grinding and whatever. But anyway,
And
I loved it.
Grinding, that's what pisses me off the most about MMOs, and that's what pushes me away from almost every MMO I ever played, because when you get into that grinding aspect, that's when it pushes me back, because as a gameplay element, I don't enjoy grinding. And it just always, like, I'm just like, man, I'm not having fun with this. You can give me the best story in the world, and if you tell me I have to grind for 60 hours, I won't pick up the damn controller.
I hear you. But in terms of MMOs, Final Fantasy is the most grind. You don't even have to grind to hit max level on your first character. Literally, if you did the story and all the quests, you would hit max level and you're ready to go on endgame raids and do all that stuff, which is crazy. And like, grinding isn't a thing until later on, but it's a necessary evil in some sort of aspects of MMOs. But anyway,
they have to pad out the gameplay, because if they're going to be charging you to be there for months, you can't just like.
That's right. I mean, there's only so much substantial content you can add, and kudos to the team. Yoshi P is the guy who took over the revamp and relaunch of Final Fantasy XIV. He did a fantastic job. But everything is top notch. The dungeons are introduced beautifully. The score to the game, I'm going to do a podcast. I love video game music, and I know you're super passionate about it as well. Just my year, and there's going to be a lot of Final Fantasy Heaven's Word things. It's like they're not stuck in a mode. They take genres of music and make it their own, and it doesn't seem corny and everything. It's just absolutely beautiful music, and I listen to it when I'm writing or when I'm doing anything on loop every once in a while. It's great. But Heaven's Word, it's like, obviously in expansion packs and MMOs, they just open up new things. There's new jobs, and there's new, like, it added the Dark Knight, the Machinist, and what the hell is I forget. It's a job I'll never ever play. But it's just, and the quest is really, really well done as well. I loved it. It's subscription based. A lot of people don't like subscriptions in MMOs anymore. Everything's free to play, but I come from, call me old school, but I don't mind paying for quality content. And I really feel to run a proper MMO with consistent, top-notch content that I want to play personally, I don't mind paying. Now, the $15 model is something I could definitely do without. But I feel like even if it's $5 to $7 a month, I almost feel like that's necessary to make an MMO run extremely well. And you look at WoW, they've never gone free to play.
Yeah, well, yeah. One of the things that pushed me away from playing MMOs when I was a kid was that whole monthly subscriber service, and that always pissed me off, because I never really liked the idea of buying a full price game and then paying monthly to play it. I was just like, well, you're an asshole. I'm not doing that. Yeah. And there was games out there that offered better gameplay experiences. Whenever I wanted to play a game that had some kind of MMO feel, there always seemed to be a game just slightly out there that I could just play. Like Lineage 2 I played a lot of, but I played that on an independent server, and I could play that with like a bunch of friends. And I had fun playing that game with my friends, but at no point was I ever like, oh boy, I need to play this on the official servers of everyone, because I was just like, no, I'm already getting all that experience.
So I don't need to pay, and that's fine.
And I always felt that when I played Lineage 2 on that private server, I was like, there is no MMO out there that they could ever make that could drive me to want to pay for it per month, when the experience I had with the game was better with friends. Because if I'm just paying monthly to play games with friends, we'll fuck off to the forest and to take a couple of swords and beat each other.
Yeah.
Heads, you know
I hear you.
Seriously, it got.
And I had that same opinion. I did, until it's just, you either fall into that trap or you don't. It's either.
It works or it doesn't.
Yeah, like I was so sad, and eventually I just dived in just to see, and it had me, man. 11, but I love Final Fantasy. And before I get off this, I feel like if you are a fan of the franchise, there are so many nostalgic nods, and they're not done poorly. They're done extremely well. I don't want to spoil it, but the final boss of the main story. Now, they've added patches of content since this came out in April to expand. They've added dungeons, which is, again, is something I want to applaud the team for. But in terms of the expansion proper, the final boss is such a huge nod back to Final Fantasy VII in a certain way. It's like, it's not even difficult, but the spectacle and what it represents in terms of, I mean, it's not a huge spoiler, but I'm going to spoil it right now because it's really awesome. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Don't listen if you want it spoiled. The final boss is essentially Knights of the Round.
Okay, that's
as a
cool.
summon.
That's actually right.
And the king, it builds up to it, and you don't really put the pieces together, and it's so awesome. Even his big spectacle attack. You know, there's always MMO boss battles are sometimes they do damage checks, or there's different mechanics that require team or whatever. But if you don't do enough damage and take down his team or his knights, they all get together and they do this huge attack just like in Knights of the Round, and then the screen actually breaks just like it used to. And it was just like, wow, this is incredible, and it's done so well. And there's a ton of it in that game.
No,
so
cool.
yeah, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, don't be afraid of it's not a real Final Fantasy game, blah 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 blah. It's actually, they're always adding content. One of my favorite games expansions of the year. I loved it.
That's cool. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a merit to MMOs. Like, I'm not gonna blacklist them all, but I just feel like I've never really played an MMO that's really grabbed my attention. I played a lot, but none of them have ever really held me for any longer than a couple days. Beyond Lineage 2, which like I said, that one I played for about a month with friends, and that was about it.
And honestly, to the betterment of your time and your life, it's probably for the better, because I think a part of the reason why I didn't play enough games this year is because MMOs, again, it's that aspect, you pay for it, you don't want to waste your money. So month to month, and that loop of weekly things that you can do, it always brings you back week to week to week. I'm like, could I play this new game, or am I going to play this game that I'm paying for anyway?
I feel like RPGs tend to do that a lot with me. Like Fallout 4, I played for so long that by the time I got to play Witcher 3, I was just like, I already spent like 60, 70 hours.
Yeah, am I up for tackling this huge other thing? I know.
It's a time sink. It's a huge time investment that seriously nobody has. There's very few people out there that could just like...
Oh yeah, like especially in the point we are in our lives, you get older, it's just so hard in order to be successful anyway in those games. You can play for bits, but MMOs in general aren't made to be consumed in half-hour, 45-minute bits. Although they do, in today's... Final Fantasy XIV is one of the most streamlined and accessible games in terms of in the genre that I've ever had, and it does let you play at 20-minute chunks if you want, but you're never going to get too far in it. So, what's one of Shane's games of the year?
Okay, so my favorite first-person shooter this year, easily Rainbow Six Siege.
Okay.
Without a doubt, was not expecting to like this game nearly as much. I played the demo for a day, or the beta for a day. And I was like, well, this is pretty cool. And then when I got to play the final version of the game, I was enthralled. I think that, and I've heard a lot of people say some pretty negative stuff about this game.
Same.
And wow, they're wrong. Like, they are so completely wrong about what this game represents and what it's going to do. It's being sold at like a full-size price, like $60 or whatever. Yeah. That price has something in it. There is a single player experience. It's not massive. It's more like a training type scenario, and you can finish it in like maybe an hour, maybe in 2 hours. It's really not that long. Where you get your gameplay, like the really cool stuff, is when you get into the multiplayer. Now the multiplayer is crazy good. I've played Counter-Strike, I've played Call of Duty, I've played a bunch of these first-person shooters online that have kind of like a tactical element to them. But I have to say that all of them pale in comparison to Rainbow Six Siege. This is the future of first-person shooters for tactical games.
That's a big statement.
Now let me explain this, because this is super important, and because everyone's been knocking this game and they don't get it.
Okay.
Counter-Strike. How many times have you played DE Dust?
None. I'm not a big Counter-Strike guy.
All right, Dust. Dust is one of the most popular levels ever made on Counter-Strike.
Okay.
And I've played Dust about 1 million times. I know where every character is going to be. I know where pro players.
Spawn points.
I know where they're going to sit. I know where they're going to be. I know their tactical points, and it all makes sense to me. It's now become not a game of mystery and wonder, but a game of chess where there's only a couple of spots people will be able to sit. Hardcore players of Counter-Strike will know exactly what I'm saying, to the point when there's one door you can shoot through, and you know you're going to shoot through that door because there's a good chance there's somebody else on that side on the other side of the door. And there's people that do that all the time when they play the game. They know the game so well that the walls don't matter. Rainbow Six Siege takes that and fucking revolutionizes it. Because with Rainbow Six Siege, you can knock down walls. Literally, not proverbially. I mean, you literally put up like a pack against a wall and blow it out. You can destroy windows.
And each character has their own specialties, right? And that's part of building a team.
It's kind of like the Team Fortress 2 aspect with different kind of abilities, but they don't all have these like outlandish things. If you're up against somebody else in this game, it's not like Team Fortress 2 in which, he has so much health and he's got this big shotgun and you have like this tiny pistol, you're never gonna win. these characters have different abilities like that, but if you walk up against somebody else, they have just the same chance to kill you that you have against them.
And it's very quick. It's not like a lot of first-person shooters where, I mean, quote-unquote, bullet sponges like COD, for instance.
Yes. It's not like that. These
guys
characters
taking 10, 12 bullets.
Yeah. Like, I think characters die a lot easier in this. I mean, you can die pretty easily in Call of Duty too, but in this one, I think it's more or less you have some.
Yeah, it's more. I mean, as realistic as a video game shooter is going to be, it's a more realistic take.
Yeah, it's not realistic to the point where it's not fun. See, the Rainbow Six games had these super tactical games to them, which are still fantastic experiences. They have this very tactical, bit by bit, move by move type of scenario where you're being very specific, and they're very difficult, very hard games to play, and they throw a lot of realism into them. Rainbow Six Siege takes the ease of play of Call of Duty with the tacticality of with Counter-Strike, and takes the amazing tactical features of Rainbow Six and merges it into this cohesive battle. When you're in Dust, you know where everyone's going to be. When you're in Rainbow Six Siege, maybe you know where they might be, but that doesn't matter. Because if they're held up on the side of a wall, well, you can knock that wall down. You can come through the ceiling. You can do whatever you want. You can go up. People that are coming into a building can go up to the ceiling and jump through windows and stuff like that, and totally change the way a game plays out. Instead of thinking of a very basic game from just a tactical point where you've got this one room and there's only one door and only one way to go in, you've now expanded the game to multiple ways, multiple paths of entry that change the dynamics of the game in a way that no other game is.
And it's very team oriented though. To be successful, I mean, as you progress, even in general, I mean, it's ideal to have a headset and a microphone and communicating with your team.
It totally is, and that's
which I think is great because it already invites a more mature audience than your typical. And I don't want to generalize because there are fantastic people that do, but I mean, bro shooters get such a bad rap, and sometimes rightfully so. You know, some of the worst people ever are online.
Oh my God,
play first-person shooters online, and it's like mute. Okay, I don't even want to talk now. I'm just going to do my thing.
And it'll have some of that. Rainbow Six will suffer from
inevitable, but I think as you progress, it weeds out those type of players because you just simply cannot be successful. You don't get that gratification.
Now, a lot of people tell me this game does not work if you play with random people online. I've played with random people online. It still works because there's a lot of people out there who are playing just like you are, and they get it.
Hey, all it takes is, hey guys, I mean, how do you want to tackle this? How do you want to defend this? And a couple of people, some people even that are willing to talk, need that intro. I mean, it's like talking to people and everything.
Yeah. One of the things they did in the game that I absolutely love is there's a right at the beginning, the people that are kind of like the terrorists, they're sitting there, and they have to build up defenses, and they have to board up walls and stuff like that, and do as much as they can to prevent people from coming in, set up traps and all that. While that is going on, the opposing team, the counter-terrorists, have little drones going through the level. Now, this is really cool because you can mark things, you can try and find, you don't automatically know where the bomb is. So these little drones can find them. Sometimes they'll miss them, and then you have to explore and find them that way. But the drones are such an important part of the gameplay because when your character dies, either in the terrorist side or the Counter-Strike side, or counter-terrorist side, whichever character, whatever player dies, they go back and they're looking through the security cameras. And they can talk, or they can push a button, and the button will mark where other people are. Oh,
so they can still communicate. You're still part of the action, even though you die. You're not just there. Yeah.
So people, the one harsh negative I have about the game is the cameras are always in the same spot, always, especially for buildings and stuff. If they could move them and randomly generate them, I think it would be much better. I honestly think it would make the game 1,000 times better. But basically, what happens is when you spawn, you know where the cameras are, so you shoot the cameras out.
Okay.
Right, and that way the people that are dead can't really help out the people that are still alive. But by doing that, by having some ability for the dead players to help out the living players, you know when you die and you're waiting to respawn, and there's nothing worse, nothing more boring than waiting for that next moment for you to play. In this game, you are still essential.
And you're helping your team. And you're important. You can't just take off. Yeah.
And honestly, I was just like, they solved it. Call of Duty hasn't solved that yet. Counter-Strike hasn't solved that yet. Battlefield hasn't solved that yet. This game solved it.
That's great. Actually, that's a new take, because a lot of the takes I've heard are, even by Rainbow Six, some sort of fans were somewhat disappointed in it, but You make me want to try it.
Rainbow Six fans would be okay. Hardcore Rainbow Six fans, the ones that love the really hardcore tactical edge of like Rainbow Six Raven Shield and stuff like that.
Yeah, New Vegas before it.
Yeah.
Not New Vegas.
No, it's Vegas. Just
Vegas. Yeah.
I get that, right? And I understand how those players would dislike it, but I think it's because they refuse to move along with the times. I love seeing the evolution of the shooter.
Sometimes you got to force change.
Yeah, and I love this because it's taking. I'm sorry, but Rainbow Six is a good game, but it is like you're moving a tank at points.
Right? By comparison, yeah.
Right? And Rainbow Six Siege, no, it's like you're playing a really smooth shooter like Call of Duty that happens to have these really good tactical elements. And when you do that, I was just like, I'm getting two different experiences that shouldn't work together at all, but they do. And that was so impressive to me. It's like taking peanut butter and chocolate and going, they can never merge, but then you did, and I was like,
we get Reese's Pieces, and it's awesome. Now, I'll fully admit, like, I'm not a big first-person shooter guy. It really has to be a special game for me to jump in, whether it's narratively like Bioshock. I finally played Wolfenstein this year.
Oh, I love that. That was really good.
I liked it a lot.
The mechanics and the story I love.
Yes. Yeah, it was really good. And then I played the expansion Old Blood, the throwbacks to Wolfenstein Castle and everything like that, which were really, really well done as well. But even that, I didn't absolutely love it. And I suppose I don't know how much you played of this next game this year, but I mean, we'll talk about it little or a lot. But Battlefront, how much did you?
I played quite a bit of that.
Did you?
Yes, I pre-ordered the game. I regret pre-ordering the game.
Yeah, I bet.
So I played the beta.
Same.
And the beta was rock solid and it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, and it worked. Everything was fine with it. And I was like, okay, this game's so solid. When I buy the game, it's just gonna have everything I like from here just added on
and refined and done. But no, in today's
same thing.
Most betas are finished products. I mean, and that's just the way. And that was my problem with the game because I got everything I needed from that beta, and I was like, okay. And now I'm reading there's not that much going to be added on to it content-wise, other than a massively overpriced season pass. I'm like, I'm out. I don't need to play this game.
I was okay. Of disappointments I've had this year, okay, Battlefront. Like, I will recommend people play and buy Fallout 4. You know what I'm saying?
Absolute. I mean,
even
the
Metal
positives.
Gear Solid 5, even Metal Gear Solid 5, because you know what? At the core of Metal Gear Solid 5, there's still some hints of Kojima that pour through in places.
Yeah, like I want to say, I mean, I don't think Metal Gear Solid 5 is a bad game.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Not in the way that I think we might have been establishing there. But let me tell you, Battlefront is a fucking perplexing game because it is a solid working game, functional in every way, but don't buy it. Like, it pisses me off how much it's like, okay, I don't want to compare it against other Battlefront games because I feel like they need to do something different now. I went and played Battlefront 2 just like a week before this game came out with a bunch of people, and we had a fun time and we had a lot of enjoyment. But while I was playing it, I noticed problems with the game that I'm like, okay, we've now gone beyond these little elements here now. And I was like, oh, well, Battlefront will fix those things. I don't want to compare it against Battlefield because it was trying to be Battlefield originally.
Star Wars Battlefield.
Yeah, right? And it's something else now. So I was like, we're getting the Battlefield guys to make a Battlefront game. It's like, well, that just makes sense. This should have happened to begin with. First off, best looking game I've ever played all year.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's insane.
I mean, if you can imagine the best shooter in a Star Wars universe capturing everything about it, this is what it is.
I would have to say it's one of the best visually looking games I've ever seen in my life. Okay, there are scenes in that game where if you just blinked, I'm like, okay, I'm on Endor now. This is what Endor is like.
Like
this is Endor.
I've played sports games in the past, like NBA 2K. People walk in, wow, that looks like a game of basketball. Like, who's playing? Yeah. But people would actually think, are you watching Star Wars right now?
Yeah, exactly. The way the sand looks, the way the snow looks, the way that the trees look in Endor, everything they did was picture perfect, visually on point. That game just rocks it. It looks fantastic. The sound design, amazing. Like, it sounds like you're watching a real Star Wars movie. Everything about that works. Where it falls apart is on every other conceivable field, except for being the servers never crash, the servers are fine, the gameplay works in that respect, but it's like the only time I can ever really play a game and go, wow, what the fuck were you thinking? You didn't do anything else. You literally did the bare minimum.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Game. It's so content light, and I mean, even the heroes, which were, I mean, I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to play as Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader and things like that in Battlefront.
And those
That's
people
not
are
what it's
insane.
about.
That's
I completely agree because, listen, Rebel and Stormtroopers, that's not, that's not awesome. It might be fun for a little bit. I want to be super powerful or at least be a reward.
Battlefront for
be a reward.
Sorry,
but
Battlefield.
the heroes are extremely unbalanced. Like Palpatine sucks.
Okay, this is my one of the biggest problems. When you play a game like the original Battlefronts, and like I said, I don't want to compare them against that, those becoming Palpatine, becoming those people, that was a reward for playing so well. In this one, you see a floating disc.
It's completely random, and it's not.
And then like, where do the vehicles spawn? Oh, the vehicles don't spawn. You just see little floating discs.
I know.
You go to. You want some weapons? A little floating disc there. And okay, they got the shooting right. I felt like they got the shooting right. Okay, I love the way that there's a tiny little mini game when you go to reload if you want to reload a little bit faster, and it's really difficult because you can never really do it right on time, but sometimes you get it. I like the shooting mechanics. They did that stuff well. All the visuals there, all the gameplay there felt solid, but all that was elements from Battlefield they had already designed, right? So when they got into this game, I was like, okay, you got a couple of these things right, cool. Now what's next? And what they presented was, let's remove everything that Battlefield does already.
Yeah.
And let's throw in this new coin system. And I'm just like, fuck you.
It doesn't sound good.
It was like, there's no way everyone sitting at DICE had to sit down and go, this was a bad idea. There's no way.
And that's why I think this is that was a publisher influenced decision to make it quote unquote accessible, because that's what it is. It's a very accessible shooter to someone that hasn't really played a lot of shooters. To people that are hardcore shooter fans, which I am not, I'm not even. The reason I don't play first-person shooters is because I'm just not great at them. I like to play things that I eventually can be good at. I'm not good at them. But it's like there's not tons of depth there for the shooter fan.
And I agree. See, an argument I heard with just to go back for Rainbow Six Siege, argument I heard with that was that the game was just it was a full price game, but it was so feature light.
Yeah.
And I think what happened, was that people that played Battlefront played Siege right after and went, oh, same experience, and threw it away. It's like, no, don't do that. Because Siege is actually
there.
Yeah. Like Siege, all the DLC packs are going to be released for free.
And that's the thing. And that's the other thing. The futures of the two games are completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, Battlefronts, I might be more willing to jump on board at a $60 price if I was some random Joe, if the DLC strategy was better, because this is the way shooters are. But this DLC strategy for Battlefront is completely archaic. One is it's overpriced. Two, the way they're doing will segment the gaming populace. It's just adding payable maps is the worst way to do things. You just don't make shooters like that anymore.
It's like Rainbow Six Siege adds, like, when you pay for that full price, you're getting a lot, like, you're getting levels you're going to want to play again and again and again. And there's quite a few levels there. There's quite a lot of stuff to do. There is a very bare bones single player experience, but there is one there, which actually has like a surprise thing at the very end. There is some other modes you can play. There's not a heck of a lot, but what is there is super replayable and super good. It's like having a really good track on a racing game. You just want to keep going back and playing those tracks again and again. But with Battlefront, it didn't do that. Battlefront gave you less features than Rainbow Six Siege, and then those features are not nearly as replayable. After playing the game for, I want to say, about a day and a half, I was done.
That's what I got from the demo. I didn't need any more.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I remember I was like, this is going to be the multiplayer shooter that I get into this year. I'm going to want to play this, and it looks gorgeous. It's going to give me everything I need, and it wasn't there. How do you feel about them removing the single player out of Battlefront?
I think they did one of the worst things they could have ever done because it needs it. Yeah. It actually needs it. If Battlefront just had the single player experience, that was good, and the multiplayer was kind of half-assed, I could see that. Because there's actually, I actually had more fun playing the defense single player thing. There's these missions where you can you just defend dropped air escape pods and stuff. And you're supposed to defend that for a really long time. Those defense missions I actually had a lot more fun with than I had playing the multiplayer experience. And I was like, why the hell is this happening? Yeah. Like, it should be the opposite way around. I should be having so much fun exploring it. One of the things I loved about the game was the commercials where they show this person playing with his friend, like playing Star Wars, and like they make like shopping cart X-wings and stuff like that,
Okay.
and they're like getting together, and there's like, this is so amazing, and he's just like, he's looking at a little R2D2 or a little X-wing, and he's just like, I wish those times were still here. And then an X-wing flies up beside his building, and it blows out the window, and his friend opens up the hood and goes.
Yeah,
And another X-wing comes up, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is what Battlefront's gonna be. But what it ended up being was like, not that. The X-wing rises, blows up the window, and then the engine shoots out. The friend just falls to his fucking death. And you're just like, well, I don't want to play that.
Yeah.
That's what Battlefront ended up being. And I got friends that are playing the game, and they're loving it and everything, but they're loving it because they're Star Wars fans.
That's right, and I feel like
because it's a good game.
they're loving it because of Star Wars. And I'm not. And fun is such a subjective thing. I don't think that's. I mean, when you're talking about a game critically and stuff like that, I don't feel like fun is a good barometer for a review or a conversation.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun. Well, it's just not like it's something that can be so many different things to so many different people.
And it's cool. Like you love Star Wars. You want a really neat Star Wars game. This is
it's
a cool
there.
thing to have.
I mean, yeah.
And what I'm saying when I say Rainbow Six Siege is a better game in every single way, it's because if you want to play a game with your friend and actually do something with them where being in the same server means something, because I'm sorry, Battlefront being in the same server with your friend means jack shit. You're not doing anything with each other. You're literally just aiming at a wall and firing and just hoping that something interesting happens. When you play Rainbow Six with another friend, he is in there or she is in there, and you two are important to one another. You both can play in a very, very specific way where one person puts the drone on the ground and spots people as you go through and tag them and shoot them. Like, that stuff is really, really tactical and it means a lot. But with Battlefront, you get none of that. It doesn't matter. There should have been a mode where you you're in a bomber and you're flying with another person and the second player is shooting down below at people or whatever, but you never feel any of that stuff. It's just so bare bones and empty. And that's unfortunate too.
Okay. So Star Wars, I don't know. It sounds like the team has moved on too. So I don't know what. I mean, obviously they will patch the game. They'll add certain things, but I think
they've got the DLC
season,
pack coming out. But
yeah,
you know what? Here's what I say: don't buy the game now.
No,
wait until
the game. And that's the thing. If I want to buy it, I'll wait till everything's in place and I'll get it for $30, which I think that's what this game is probably worth.
Because can you imagine if the DLC packs come out and they actually release single player expansions to it?
Oh my god!
Then you got a game you want to play. You know, that's where you're gonna have your fun. Until that happens, though. It's a game that is basically a pickpocket. Like, it's just taking your money.
There's not enough there.
Yeah.
There's not enough there.
If the game was like $5.
Real quick, another one of my games of the year was Tales from the Borderlands, which is crazy. I mean, did you play it?
No, I didn't play it, yeah.
Now, I am a Telltale fan, and I firmly believe they are getting better at their formula. There's a lot of... You can refine the engine, whatnot. But I'm not a Borderlands fan at all.
Same, actually.
Not a fan.
Yeah.
But this was the most well-written, funniest... I honestly think it's Telltale's best so far. I really do. And again, I am not a Borderlands fan.
I actually like Back to the Future a lot, but I think I like Back to the Future mostly because I'm a fan of the
Well, there you go.
And,
yeah. I mean, I love almost everything they've done. I didn't, to a lesser extent this year, the Game of Thrones, a lot of people didn't love it, but I liked it. It's just because you know where... there's only so much you can work within the confines of that story, because the story is fine. But without going into too many spoilers, it's so well written. It is hilarious. The music is fun. The choices are engaging. The characters are... You know, you talked about how the characters were better in Fallout 4, like the other characters aside. Yeah. Well, like, it's like every single one of those characters adds so much. Even the bad guys. Like, there's nothing charmed or cliched, and they're funny and charming.
Let me ask you this. Having not played Borderlands 1 and 2, I did play Borderlands 1 and 2, but I didn't get into the stories. I didn't enjoy them that much.
Dude, I barely played Borderlands 2. Yeah, it's not a game for me.
It really isn't. It's funny, too, because when I play a first-person shooter, I expect to shoot somebody in the head and they drop. And when I play Fallout 4, I don't expect that to happen. But for some reason, when I play Fallout 4, I don't get the instant feeling of hate that I get when I play Borderlands, and I don't know what it is. It's not like Borderlands is a terrible game. I just play it and I'm like, wow, I don't enjoy this experience at all. It just feels so, like contained in a way. And... me not liking those, are you saying that I would actually most likely like Borderlands? Because I love story elements.
Well, that's the thing. I don't give a shit about playing Borderlands, but I couldn't deny that there was a charm there that I wanted to get to that I never got to. The character of Handsome Jack, just from the outside looking and not knowing a ton about it, seemed compelling. You know, that sarcastic, aspal nature of it, and just everything about it seemed very interesting to me. But the game as it was, as 1 and 2, did nothing for me. This, I got in, and it was when they started announcing all these projects, you know, the year before, I was like, I don't know how the hell they're going to do this, and this is the one I will not play. But I ended up buying the first one, and I was like, that's probably the best episode of Telltale I've played. I just loved it. And then you had to wait so long, which is becoming a reoccurring problem with them, but that's neither here nor there to this game. I loved it, and it is one of my top 3 games of the year.
Oh, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to have to try that out then.
Yeah, I loved it.
I do like their games. Telltale is a very strange beast because I was like, there's no way Back to the Future is going to be good. And I ended up liking that, but I am super biased on that because I'm such a big fan of the movie. You literally could have put the freaking game out on toaster packages and I probably would have liked it. But I think it was I think Sam and Max, when I first played that, I was like, I get this. I like what you guys are doing.
I mean, they're not new. They're basically throwbacks to the old point-and-click adventure games, just brought up to speed in some sort of way, you know, with voice acting and whatnot. And I loved old point-and-click adventure games.
Yeah,
I loved them.
And that's what Tales of Borderland is, pretty much.
So, well, all these Telltale's games are just not exactly like that, but it takes that formula and moves it forward in some sort of way. And you know, they got famous for The Walking Dead, and everyone loves The Walking Dead. I think Walking Dead Season 1 and 2 are probably their weakest projects.
So I played just a tiny little bit of the first one, and I am planning to finish them at some point. But for me, I'm zombied the fuck out.
100%. That's why I never played Dying Light. I want nothing to do with it, and I don't even think Walking Dead's good. It's just so cliched.
It's like I just don't care. I mean, like, I played Black Ops 3 has like 2 or 3 zombie missions in it when you buy it. I'm just like, dude, back off.
Yeah, I know.
Don't care
It's
anymore.
so overdone. I know.
We've got like 1,000,001. I've got on Steam reviewer or like companies that send me games and stuff for review.
Mm-hmm.
I got like 10 zombie games in like 3 months, and I'm just like, dude, I can't even quantify that. Like, what are you doing that's so different? You use zombies as an element, as kind of like a deconstructive core mechanic for a game because you want dumb AI to just slowly creep towards the character. Some game developers do it better than others, and there are some really solid zombie games out there. Dying Light is one that I do actually want to play because I like what they're trying to go for with it. But I'm just, at the same time, I'm just like, man, if you release another game about...
I know.
And look, there are other games out there that I actually avoided playing because they had the scent of zombieism. Like, what was that game for the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 they released a remaster for? Last of Us?
Oh, yeah.
Last of Us isn't really a zombie game, but because of how they were marketing it, I was like, oh, fuck, a zombie game.
Have you never played Last of Us?
No, I have it
Oh,
on
okay.
But like, I was actually, I didn't want to play it for a while because I was like, oh, it's just another zombie game. But then everyone was like, no, it's not. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But that's the kind of stuff that happens. The zombie games have become so primary that it actually, I'm just like, I don't even, it's like when World War II games are coming out every 2 days.
Yeah,
right?
and it's like, okay, I'm so over this. Let's do something completely different. I know, I agree. No, but Tales from the Borderlands is awesome. I think it's Telltale's best.
I will give that a shot then, yeah.
Any other games you want to go through? I mean, there's obviously a couple I still want to talk, but I mean, we're getting a little long in the tooth for this. I wanted to get into 2016, but I think I'm going to split these into 2 episodes. So we'll stop this when we're done 2015, go into what we want and into 2016, go from there. Sorry, you probably didn't need to hear that, but we're talking about that. So, you go. What's a game?
I think my last game I'd want to talk about for the year, like I said earlier on, was Read Only Memories.
Please.
So Read Only Memories is an indie game.
And sort of, sorry, a minute before you get started, because I didn't play it, and I've also yet to play Undertale, which is another one. You were giving me a good correlation between the two.
Okay, that's a good.
Use those as you go.
So Read Only Memories and Undertale are 2 indie games that are produced by completely different people, and they have nothing at all in common whatsoever. 2 completely different groups. Everyone is loving Undertale, but I felt that Read Only Memories was, in my opinion, the far better of the games that I had played. Read Only Memories takes the elements of Snatcher and improves upon it in a very interesting way, very much like any good game should. It should be inspired by other games or other kind of elements and then improve upon those elements to make a much more interesting aspect. I think because I want to see growth in game design. I don't want to see this flat, everyone does the same thing kind of deal. When I played Undertale, I didn't fall in love with Undertale. I played a couple of hours, I think 3 or 4 hours of it, and I was just like, wow, I'm not having fun. Like, this is just, it's not interesting me in any way, and it felt narratively kind of hollow. I am going to keep playing it.
Because it's relatively short, 6-7 hours?
It's 6 or 7 hours, yeah. And I wasn't getting that out of it. Everyone's telling me you gotta beat the game to enjoy it, but like I said, I don't like playing a game of 7 hours just to have 10 minutes of like, and that's why it happened.
Yeah.
It's like I've walked out of movies because the movies were so boring that I'm like, look, they like, seriously, John Candy could come back from the dead and go, guess what? You won $1 million. And it's like, I'm still not going to sit through the whole movie, man. Like, this is literally, there's this one movie I watched that I got so bored I had to leave. I think it was just called, the Brady Bunch movie. There, that's one. I fell asleep during that one when it originally came out. There's, Stay, that's it, Stay. Stay was this movie that I watched about and all the actors in it, I love. After about an hour of Stay,
I don't need to stay.
No, I didn't. Me and my friend got up and we left the theater because we were like, you know what, this is stupid. We stopped watching it. I'm almost hazy on this, but I think we stopped watching it when a hand came out of the sky and pulled a record off the ground or something, and I was like, what the hell has this
that happened to me the other day? I almost walked out of my life.
I was so I don't even remember the scene in the sky. I'm probably messing it wrong, but there's like a hand or something in the sky, and I was like, nope, I'm done, and we left.
Yeah.
So like I have that thing. If it's gonna demand my time, it's got to be worth it. Read-only memories right at the start grabs you and holds you and wants you to be a part of this universe, and it gives you the reason to be there, and it teaches you in a sly way the mechanics of the world, and I really, really like that. Read-only memories held me in narratively, gameplay-wise, and emotionally, and like with like the graphics and everything. Everything about it was on fire. But Undertale didn't do the same thing.
Okay.
And I feel like a lot of people are being told Undertale's a really good game, and everyone's telling me I gotta keep playing it all the way to the end, but they're doing that because they didn't play Read-Only Memories.
Okay.
If you only played Read-Only Memories, you'd see another game that's taken the same example, and it's like, Read-Only Memories, sometimes I don't like this, but there are games that are so good and then the ending kind of sucks, but you're just like, at least the rest of the game was so good. And I feel like Undertale is the opposite of that. Apparently the entire game isn't all that great, but the ending
payoff is where it's at.
Yeah. And I don't know what I hate more. Can't we just have a game that does both things right?
I know.
So yeah.
It's hard for me to judge things apart from each other. I mean, I don't want to make this another one of my other, if you listen to my other podcasts, I hate the Mass Effect 3 ending. But it's about the journey, not the ending. But the ending sours the journey for me. But anyway.
It's like you get to the ending and it's like, guess what? Your character was dead all along. It's like, no, really? We're doing that?
And it's a shame because there's games like Read-Only Memories every year, and I think that's a video waiting to happen. It's like the games that fall through the cracks.
Yes.
And there's so much. It's like any medium. We're saturated today with great music, great film, great games, great everything. It's like there's only so much time. Yeah, and that's great. We can get together. I didn't even know what Read-Only Memories was, and I love Snatcher. I love these things, and you're telling me about it, and it just makes me want to play.
This is the cultural evolution of Snatcher.
And you showed me the intro before we started. I'm like, yep, that's what I like.
Yeah, and that's like that intro. It's not like the intro doesn't lie to you either. It's not like, okay, here are these amazing pixelated graphics, and now the game's going to be a 3D hop-chop mess. No. When you get into the game, it looks just like the intro. It plays like that.
And the nostalgia gets you in the door, but it doesn't. That's not the only thing going for it.
Yeah, and it's got very little voice acting. You see voice acting at the beginning in the intro, but when you actually get into the game, there's very little of it. Because it is an indie game at its core. It wasn't made with like $1 million budget. It was made with a small budget. But I think what they had, they achieved, and they achieved greater than most like first-party publishers would be able to produce with their own like multi-million-dollar budgets.
That's fantastic. Play Read-Only Memories.
Yes.
Do it. Go out and get it. I mean, I'm going to try Undertale as well. I haven't.
You got to. Yeah, no, I mean, like, if you might see something in it that I didn't see, and I think everyone's going to see something in it that I didn't see, because I think I was a little bit more harsher on the game than most people were out there, but...
Yeah. Now, we're at about an hour and a half, but there's a few games I want to get through. Let's try to move these through relatively quick. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture was... not as good as I thought it would be, but I still really enjoyed it.
Run, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
That's right. It was beautiful. I liked the message. It probably isn't everything you thought it was going to be. And, some people have qualms about the movement or whatever, but I feel like if you're playing this game to move fast, you're probably you're playing for the wrong reasons. I mean, you're there to take in the environment, take in the narrative, take in the passive narrative, the world, and things of that nature. And the score is awesome. I really liked it. I did like the game. I mean, some people said it didn't live up to their billing, but I mean, I'd probably fall into that camp as well. I think I was expecting a lot more than what it actually was. But what was there once I came to grips with it, I didn't hate. I actually liked it quite a bit.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah. Did you play Batman?
Oh, right. That
Yeah, I know, we forgot about it.
Yeah, I didn't like that game. Okay, so I bought the PC version initially. And
oh my god.
So, let me explain. PC version was broken. For many that don't know, the PC version it was broken, is broken, will forever be broken.
It's still broken, yeah.
Yeah.
Even after a re-release and pull off the shelf thing.
Yeah, so I did beat it. I felt like it was the weakest of all the games
I do
they've
too.
made.
And
everyone always tells me Arkham Origins is the weakest. But you know what?
You want to know what's crazy? I mean, other than the glitches, I think Arkham Origins is the best game.
I had a lot of fun with Origins.
See, I think the story and the characters are so well done, and you know, this isn't about this. I mean, this is a great conversation. It's just, I feel like it got a bad rap because it wasn't Rocksteady, and because it wasn't getting enough time in the oven, because it was a game meant to pigeonhole, you know, bridge the gap, more or less. Yeah. And I don't know. I felt like it did so many things well. I mean, from the introduction of the detective world building that Arkham Knight takes. I mean, it wasn't meant to revolutionize what the Batman Arkham games were. Yeah. I really feel like they were like, give me more of what made City great, and we'll be fine with that. And I actually think they made a better City game, but that I still love City.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is how I feel for me. The first game, I feel narratively and everything, it works incredibly well. I think that there's a lot to explore in that game that's manageable and enjoyable. I think 1 is almost a perfect game. Like,
I think it's fantastic.
I felt 2 improves upon that and does a lot of really cool things. And I felt it was really good too. And I like the story in 2, I think, a little bit more than 1. But that's just like a
and the gameplay.
Off, right?
I mean, that's the only thing that was tough for me with Asylum. Was going back to it, it's like it's missing those gameplay additions that worked so well in City.
I agree, and I think 2 did that really, really well. I felt Origins was just kind of like a shift of 2. They're very similar. There's not a lot different. It's just like a +1 on top of it, and I still enjoyed it. But that last Batman game drops the ball. I felt narratively they got the story wrong. I felt they got the characters wrong. I felt they underused the characters when they did use them, and the characters they didn't use they should have used. And then I felt the gameplay was just a mess of just a billion different things. Like, there are literally sequences in that game where you have an ability and you use the ability once and you never use it again. And I'm just like, why give me 1,000 abilities? And it's like, well, we just and
it's crazy because when they do work in conjunction, when you start going to the challenge room, it's pretty awesome when you get the hang of it. But you're right, there's almost like they had these entire spectrum of weapons you can do while gliding. I never used that once. I want to get in, I'll do the tackle, and then I go at it.
They literally added so many features that I was just like, man, I am overburdened with things. Like, dude, when I want a car to drive me from point A to point B, I want the car to do that efficiently. It can have a radio, it can have a cup holder, it can have power windows. But what Batman tried to do, that latest one, was, okay, you can choose a 1,000 different kind of wheels, 1,000 different kind of engines, you can have a different kind of body, it will fly you there if you want, you can go underground, you can go on a boat, and I'm just like, shit, I just want to punch the guy. What button is that? And that's what Batman ended up becoming, was this huge mess of features, and I'm just like, I'm not enjoying this, because what was so good about the other Batman games was, here's a problem, there's one really creative solution to get out of it, find the solution. But in this Batman game we're giving you a million different things, one of those things is the solution, and I absolutely found that vile. Like, they didn't understand it. And the story was hands down the worst.
So did you like how they implemented the Joker?
Absolutely not.
See, and I feel like, again, Origins was a better game when the Joker wasn't in it. It's like, Batman is more than the Joker, and I was anxious to get into a story that didn't have the Joker into it, and I don't know what Rocksteady's obsession is with the Joker. Now,
I was not expecting the Joker to be in the game at all.
No, I mean, I sort of got, I was really looking forward to this game, and I mean, the Batmobile as a mode of transportation, I actually thought it was extremely well done. I never thought I would want to go, because I love traversing the worlds in City and Origins just going through the rooftops, tackling problems like that. I actually really liked it. I didn't need the Batmobile, but the way it was and how, as a traversal thing and engaging with the environments and flying out of the roof, that was awesome. And you're on a rooftop, you press L1 on the PS4 controller, and the sound effects all make it work.
Yeah.
But that aspect of the Batmobile and iteration as the tank is an absolute fucking mess, and the biggest problem this game has. By implementing that tank, if the Batmobile was just as it was, the game would have been fine, because the way the levels are constructed would have been able to be left alone. But the tank, it's like everything has to involve the tank. And to the detriment, there's almost no interior environment, which, fed off the Predator rooms and things like that. It was not fun to use the tank. And then subsequently, there's no goddamn boss battles. It was which Origins nailed, which City nailed.
I couldn't understand. Like, dude, I'm so confused as to how they.
Deathstroke is really relegated to.
He's like a 2-second character. I'm like, you just used. You were building something up with these characters, and like they were building up something grand in all the other games. Like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And then when you get to it, it's like, okay, here's a pack of marshmallows. I'm gonna go to the store, and it's like, wait. Is that the story? Well, I thought you were.
And like even some of the arcs they built up in City, like the Hush angle. Everyone thought, the arc at night.
Oh, pissed off.
Oh my god, it pissed me off so much.
What's Hush's angle? 2 seconds in a row.
And that's the thing. What the Arkham Knight, I'm not going to spoil it, but what the Arkham Knight ended to be, it's not a huge thing. I mean, it's spoiled halfway through the game. You already know as soon as something shows up, that's what it is. And it's exactly what they said it wasn't going to be.
That pissed me off so much. It's like because they keep
saying, it's going to be a completely new character. It's not.
It's like, I'm sorry for spoiling the game, guys, but Mark Hamill not in the game. No, he is in the game.
He's in the game.
Why would you lie about that?
I know, I don't get it.
And then it's like, it would have been a better game if you didn't introduce those like, dude, yes, I get it. I love Mark Hamill. His interpretation of the Joker is amazing.
Awesome.
And you know what?
It's so good.
I wanted to like him in this. But you know what you did? You went from making him this subtle thing that happens once in a while to the other games, and this one he's every 2 seconds. I know. And I'm like, oh my god, stop.
And it's like, if they didn't... Okay, I could have got over it if it wasn't there all the time. When he showed up in an event, like, I felt like there are things this game is doing is so beyond in terms of presentation, cinematic.
It's a bad story is what it is.
And it is,
and I think that story makes the gameplay even worse, and I don't even know how to quantify that.
Like, there's so many aspects without getting into the exact minutiae of it, but why does the Arkham Knight have all this money? Why, you know what I mean? I just don't get it. I like the battle of the mind. That was the only thing that worked, and there are elements that work, but the overarching thing falls so flat. And as it's supposed to be a finale for these fantastic series of character, I'm using the word fantastic too much, but whatever, fantastic franchise, it sucks. And even the side quests that I love in City that were really well done, they're not as well done in Arkham Knight. They fall flat in a lot of ways. But I went back and played the Season of Infamy because I'm an idiot and bought the Season's Pass. I don't know why I did. I had some credit or something I did. But the finale, the Season Pass sucks. Don't buy it. But the Season of Infamy, which adds the 4 new side quests like Mr. Freeze, Ra's al Ghul, Killer Croc, and I don't know. I forget.
Is it Sandman?
No.
Sandman.
Jeez. Not Spider-Man.
Clayface?
No.
I don't.
Freeze, Killer Croc, Ra's al Ghul. I forget. I completely. Oh, and Mad Hatter. They love the Mad Hatter. I don't know why they always put him in the game. He's the worst. But it's actually kind of well done in this. But those little side quests, how they're done in the world, how you can dial them up, are excellent. And if Arkham Knight would have just been that and a better story, I would have loved the game. And it just sucks because the game is absolutely gorgeous. The scale of the city is like Arkham City times 10. Like, the buildings are bigger. Everything is more beautiful. You move faster. And it's so much better. It's just not a good story.
Yeah, I think that's what really got me.
And the tank is just. I wouldn't even have minded the tank in the grand scheme of things with the story if it wasn't in everything.
No, dude. There's a point in the game. This is a spoiler, okay? This is a spoiler, so warning. There's a point in the game when you lose the fucking thing. And I was like, thank you.
Yes, I know.
And then 2 seconds later, don't worry, I've got another one.
Yeah, I know.
Fuck you. Don't do that. You got rid of it, and now it came back. And I was like,
it sucks. It sucks. But yeah.
It's just,
Like, it's just, and it's a beautiful game. Oh my god,
visually it's insane. Like the rain effects and the lighting effects in it, it's some of the best looks you'll ever find. In fact, I'd say it would be the best looking game this generation had it not been for the fact that most people on PC couldn't be able to run the damn thing.
I know.
And Battlefront exists, and Battlefront makes it look. That's the funniest thing. Battlefront is a game I don't want to recommend to anyone. Of all the games here, I recommend you actually try them out and see what it's like, because maybe there's a subjective opinion about how we feel about the stories or the gameplay. But Battlefront legitimately is a bad, hollow game, but it's the best looking bad, hollow game you'll ever play.
So yeah, I don't know. But I think the final one we should close on before we snap this and move on to 1B would be The Witcher 3. I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that real quick. I mean, personally, if I had to choose a game of the year, quote unquote, it would edge out the other Final Fantasy Heaven's Ward and Tales
I didn't play enough of it, but visually...
I played 25 hours of it, roughly, and I just... Again... It's tough because my opinion is off a 6-month build of the game after 10 patches. And that's not really fair. I don't know if I would have loved the game as much as if I played it day one, because I hate glitches and things interrupting my time and my experience with the game. But the side quests are so well done. The world is absolutely gorgeous. I'm not a huge open world fan. I'm of the mind that the bigger you get, sometimes you lose focus and it hurts narrative stories, which I play games for. Yeah. Everyone plays games differently. I understand. It's just everything's open world for open world's sake these days. You know, they're talking about, which is one of my most anticipated games of the year, Dishonored 2. And, you know, if it was just open world, don't make the game open world. I loved Arkham City because it was more open, but it was contained. Like, you know, it didn't lose too much of the focus. And it's almost too dense, Witcher 3. But, I mean, in terms of fitting that open world pigeonhole, it is such a well-realized world. The side quests are so well done, they mean a lot. Whereas as last year, Dragon Age Inquisition, I'm a huge Dragon Age fan, but I did not like Inquisition. So much of the side quests were MMO. Again, did you play Xenoblade this year at all?
Like, honestly, 10 minutes of it.
Yeah, and it's like MMO light. And it's like... I don't know, that's not what I want from some of these. I'd rather have 10 awesome side quests than 50 snatch and grab ones that mean nothing.
You know what, I agree with you, because, and you know what, the more I think about this, the more I realize, because you mentioned earlier on that it's the idea that we're getting older maybe, and then we don't have all this time to play all these games. But I don't think that ever happened, because when I played games when I was a kid, they didn't last for fucking ever, right? There was like a set time to playing the game. Some games I played only took an hour to beat, some only took 2 hours, some took a little bit longer than that and treated it more like a season of a show. Mm-hmm. But there are games I'm playing now where I'm just like, okay, dude, I'm 100 hours in, get fucked. I just want to finish the game. And you know what? This is going to be the most unpopular thing I ever say.
Say it.
When I say that games don't need to be that long because they do not add value, I fucking mean you don't need... If the best you can do is pad out gameplay to make the game worth its time and length, because you have no other ability to make the game worth it, then you just made a shit game. And that's what...
Amen, brother.
And that's why I'm playing some of these games. Like, Undertale, okay? 7 hours? Hey, I can do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be 2, but I can do that. One of my favorite experiences playing a game was Portal. I could beat Portal in like 2 hours if I'm taking my time. Sure. And that's a nice experience of a game where you've got really good puzzles, some really cool narrative, and an ending. And it does it all within about 2 hours. I didn't need the game to be 75 hours with a million puzzles I'm never going to finish.
And I feel like it's one of the worst trends. And for some reason, today's gaming populace just loves the back-of-the-box open world quote with 100 plus hours of gameplay. That means jack shit to me. You know what? That's actually a deterrent to me.
It is.
You know what that says? It says needlessly big, too much filler, and a shittier, unwieldy focus in terms of the narrative. And a chance for a broken game. A game that's just not going to work. I'd rather have a game that does 5 things extremely well than a game that does 15 to 20 things average.
I agree. Dude, you know what it's like? It's like going to a buffet and they're giving you all these
tons of it.
Tons of it. And it's like, okay, but you know what? All I wanted was that one thing, and that one thing is never going to be done well at a buffet. if it, like there are games that are structured in that way to be that big, where you can explore whatever you want, right? And that's cool, and that's totally fine.
And they're gonna say that these open world games just aren't for us, but I feel like you can make these meaty, huge games, but just, I mean, trim some of that fucking fat.
Yeah, like, okay, Call of Duty story. The Call of Duty main quest, if they promised me the Call of Duty main quest could be finished in about 3 or 4 hours, okay? Seriously, I would play the game, but where I want my extra hours of gameplay is in the multiplayer, right? Because that's where I'm going to have a lot of fun with it, where you can create a really fun mechanic that's repeatable that I want to go back and play again and again. What fucking fun did I have playing like 70 hours of Metal Gear Solid 5? I didn't. I repeated the same... Dude, I streamed the game because I felt like I had to do something to share this with people, to have... Like, the most fun I had playing Metal Gear Solid 5... The most fun I had playing Metal Gear Solid 5 was playing it with people online and talking with them, because I had nothing better to do waiting in the fucking...
Because you had nothing bridging those gaps. I know, I hear the gameplay loop is so good, but what is the purpose of that game? I have no reason to be doing what I'm doing right now.
Exactly. It's like people like to forget. Tetris is a really solid game, a really good puzzle game, but it's a puzzle game you can pick up and play in a couple of minutes.
Sure.
You don't have to sit there for 12 hours playing the game. You could do that if you wanted, but the idea of getting the enjoyment from the game is in the gameplay. Easy to pick up, difficult to master. And when you get to some of these games right now that are being created, it's like 200 hours of gameplay. It's like, fuck you. Why did I need 200 hours of gameplay? You could have taken out that 3-hour gap where I'm walking through a forest picking up fucking strawberries. You could have taken that out and put in like a 10-minute piece.
Yeah, is there a better way to do that?
Yeah.
Rather than this collecting. I mean, again, The Witcher 3 is too big. I'm fine. You know, I say that with full confidence. It's just too big. It's too dense. There's too much.
Yeah.
But the main story is still good. The characters are really good. The writing is really well done. The game is gorgeous. In terms of a tactical thing, it shits all over other open world games this year. It does. There's no loading times in the game. Interior, exterior is seamless. Again, I'm talking about a 6-month build of the game. The combat was more refined when I played it. And everyone says, oh, the combat's not that good. You know what? The combat's fine. Like, you know what's not good combat? Skyrim. Skyrim has awful gameplay. It is dreadful.
I played Fallout 4, and when I finished Fallout 4, that's when I actually got into Witcher, and by that time, Witcher had already seen a bunch of updates and stuff. So what I played, like you said, doesn't represent the very first.
And they fixed even things like they fixed the way Geralt moves, like the movement speed, the way he stops. You know, he used to like carry on for some stutter steps. They fixed all that. Again, yeah, like it's hard. Maybe your experience with the game is completely different, but I mean, it's already garnered a bunch of Game of the Year awards. Not like I need that to validate my opinion.
Oh my god, yes, I get that. Yeah, right. Like,
but
it's not like we're bashing a bad game.
No, like I'm not bashing, but those side quests and the directions that they can go, they add so much to the world. They're not tossed in for no reason. Every side quest has, you know what I mean? They're fleshed out and they work. They really work. I loved The Witcher 3. And I guess I can't wait to spend 60 more hours with it.
And that's fine. You know what? And there are games like that exist that are cool that you want to spend a lot of time into. But for me, all I want to do, right, is just sit there and play a game and enjoy it for a little bit. But I feel like every game I get into, it's like, this is something I just did with my wife over New Year's Day. New Year's Day, we sat down, we had a whole bunch of movies we hadn't watched, and we sat down, we completed a bunch of movies we had never seen. You know why we could do that? Because not one of the movies was 17 fucking hours long.
Yeah.
It was insane. Like, we sat down, there was a couple movies we picked up, we did this really cool thing where it's like, we watched a movie for 10 to 30 minutes. Like, we had this like little mark, and within that point, we watched at least 10 minutes, and if the movie wasn't doing anything of interest that we felt was
if it hasn't grabbed you, you're out.
Yeah, right? So we did that. We got through a bunch of movies that we didn't want to watch anymore, but then we discovered some movies that we didn't really think we would like, and we ended up liking a lot and watching all the way through. So there's a way to do that. And with video games, I feel like somebody told me, Team Fortress 2, you don't get the Team Fortress 2 experience. And I apologize. I've apologized to this person because I understood what he was saying at the time, but I took it incredibly harshly.
No, but I do too, because, again, if that's the only thing you say to me is that line, we're going to have a massive problem.
Yeah. It was...
You're insulting me.
You can only get the feel of Team Fortress 2 if you've played 100 hours of it. And I was like...
That's a badly designed game. I mean, you're describing a badly designed game. Yeah. And I know Team Fortress 2 isn't a badly designed game.
Yeah, Team Fortress 2, like he was saying that, I'm like, dude, I played Team Fortress 2 for hours because I really, really enjoyed it. I played it. I played it before Steam was actually registering time to play. So it says on there that I've played it for like 70 or 80 hours, but I'm pretty sure it's in excess of that. But it was a community experience I was experiencing with other people. I never played Team Fortress 2 as a single player experience. No one did. So what I was experiencing there was a community bridge thing, and the game did evolve and change over time. And sadly, for me, it's evolved into a game I don't enjoy anymore. But that doesn't diminish what the game was for me.
I know.
Right? So when I hear somebody say, well, you have to play a game for 100 hours just to get to the building blocks, I'm like, what game?
Shane, you hear it for League of Legends, you hear it for Dota, you hear it for Souls games and all this
bullshit.
stuff.
Everyone tells me that you have to play.
Dude, I played League of Legends before it was League of Legends. The Heroes Mod in Warcraft 3. I was the biggest Warcraft 3 nerd there was, and I love playing it.
It's like Dota and anything like that, right? Everybody just tells you have to play like a game for like 50 hours to get used to it, and I'm just like, dude, look, if you told me, seriously, think of games like food to an extent, or movies. If you seriously told me, well, when you go to McDonald's, you're not going to enjoy the first Happy Meal, but after your 50th... You need
10 to really get the experience.
Yeah. That's it. 10 to really understand how good mustard is. Get the fuck out of my house. Like, that shit is just insane. Like, when people say that stuff, it's like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Like, no.
But you're just insulting my life experiences. You know what I mean? I have enough life experience to get a first impression. Just like people, just like games. It's fine.
It's like, dude, like, yourself and me, like, we play a lot of video games. And there's a lot of people out there that
but
do
I can't play everything.
Too. Right, yeah. But when somebody tells you something like that, it's like, dude, this game isn't new. I've already played 20 other games like this.
This isn't new. This isn't innovating, really. It's just an iteration of something I've already done.
It's like okay, does it take 1,000,000 hours to get good at Minecraft? No. Do you want to know why Minecraft is so easy? Because you didn't have to build... This is important. I don't think anyone understands this about Minecraft. This is really important about games in general. Minecraft, what happens when you want to take a piece of wood from a tree? Did you have to build an axe? No, you punched it. That's why Minecraft worked. How do you dig? You punch the ground. If you actually had to make that shit before any of that happened, in this really complex way, no one would have played it. The concept...
It's ease of use.
And from that
unlimited depth in world building.
See, that's what makes Minecraft such a genius idea. And even if you don't like Minecraft... You know to punch the ground or punch a tree. Yeah. That's all you got to do, right? And the tree still floats there because it's magic. It doesn't matter, right?
Magic tree.
But that's the thing. No one ever seems to understand that if Minecraft had, it takes 50 hours to just figure out how to punch a tree, no one would have bought Minecraft.
Yeah. But I'm also of the mind that it doesn't have to be... I don't want games to be so simple to pick up, although that does fit for many games. I'm okay with a learning process.
Oh yeah,
but if after, like, I like to think I'm pretty good at video games. I have enough experience, but if I can't grasp something after a couple hours, I'm out. Like, that means there is something wrong with the game. It's not me. It's the game.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. Like I said, there are coming from a classic retro video game experience, there are games that had like sharp learning curves where it wasn't easy to get into, and there are a lot of games like that. But back in the older days, some games were invented that created genres, and they didn't know.
They didn't know what they were.
Right?
They just were. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there are first-person shooters I played in the early days that were just like, well, you need a key card to get into this door because we need to create something for you to do. It can't just be you shooting.
Yeah. It has to be a barrier. Yeah.
And that's the thing that happens with these games. There are games that do that have those learning curves, but they work really well and they work in their own ways.
Yeah. So that was our extremely lengthy year of 2015 of games that we played. I mean, I guarantee you, as soon as I stop this and go to the bathroom, I'm going to think of 5 games I missed, and you're probably going to think of that as well.
Probably, yeah.
But you know what? We'll talk about them through the year. I really enjoyed 2015. It did not live up to the hype I had, but a year doesn't have to be good.
For me, honestly, it was the games I was not expecting to be inspired.
I think that's you're right,
and it's like. The games I played that I enjoyed I enjoyed different aspects of them more than what I thought I would be enjoying. They showed me different avenues. 2015 was a year of changes for me. It was something that I completely it subverted my expectations and gave me something completely different, which gives me a better open mind for the future for games to come out.
Great way to end. This has been 1A of the Rose Experience podcast. We're going to move to 1B would cover 2016 and maybe a personal resolution and our hopes for 2016 as a whole. It'll be a little bit shorter. We'll be right back.